All right, welcome to our training today on the Women's Guide to Losing Stubborn Visceral Fat. I know a lot of you have been asking about this, why it's so hard to lose weight after 35. And honestly, it's because there's a difference between visceral and subcutaneous fat, which I'm going to break down for you in this video. And the visceral fat isn't really affected by things like calories in, calories out, which is why you're hitting the gym 3, 4, 5 days a week. You're getting your steps in and you're cutting your calories. You're in a deficit. You're like, oh, I'm only eating 1,200 calories. Why can't I lose weight? It's because visceral fat actually doesn't get or isn't very affected by things like calories. So let me explain to you what goes on here. Now, if you don't know, by the way, in this training as well, I'm going to go through 5 things of how you can affect visceral fat so you can actually get your body responding again when hormones have changed. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Jared McDonald. I'm the creator and founder of the Metabolism Reboot program. We've helped 2,000 women in the last 8 years lose 20 to 35 pounds of fat in 6 weeks. Yes, that is our average. 24 and a half is the actual average. Average age is 56. 90% of people lose at least 20 pounds in the 6 weeks. I know that sounds crazy. You're probably like, oh, that's way too good to be true, Jared. But it's because we understand things a little differently, which I'm going to break down in this video. All right, so let's dive in and break it down. So after 35, you probably know, of course, that things change. Estrogen, progesterone starts to decline. And when this happens, a few things, key things come into play. Muscle decreases up to 10% even at the onset. Insulin resistance increases. Cortisol sensitivity increases, which isn't great because you're a business owner, you're a career woman, you've got demands of the family and life, like that's not going to help. And then inflammation increases and your body's actually going to store that inflammation much easier as fat now, right? And that's super important. Now, I didn't mention on this list, but things like poor digestion and lack of sleep and all these things come into play as well. Now, all of these things above are going to help make your body store fat, particularly the visceral fat, which is the dangerous stuff. Now, here's why the traditional diets don't work, is because caloric restriction that worked in your 20s worked fine because you had all those hormones to help support your fat burning. And subcutaneous fat, it responds really well to calories. That's the pinch and inch stuff on the top, right? But after 35, restricting calories actually increases cortisol and slows your metabolism down. This is going to make visceral fat even more stubborn because you have no hormones there to help it. Your metabolism is going to slow down. You're going to increase your cortisol and it's just going to get worse. And here's the thing. Here's the kicker that most people don't understand. Visceral fat doesn't respond well to calories. Visceral fat is like this rogue organ that just sends signals through your body to store fat. And it does respond to things like protein, fiber, muscle, cortisol, insulin, inflammation, and sleep. These things are going to affect visceral fat, not so much calories. Okay. And so when people are like, it's just about calories, it's maybe for a while, but not so much after 35 and not long-term for sure. Okay. So here's 5 things that we can do. Let's break this down now. When we're looking at this list of what affects visceral fat, what are the most effective things we can do? What can we control on a daily basis? It's always going to be able to be controlled, right? So these are all things that are going to help affect that visceral fat and get your hormones in a better place. So I think number 5 is honestly going to be the most important. You're probably going to listen to some of these and it's because you're driven and you're educated. You're going to go, well, I'm going to do a lot of that, right? And let me tell you why you haven't seen the results still in number 5, if that's you. Now, first thing you got to do is get your fiber up. Fiber is your secret weapon, not protein. Everyone's like protein, cottage cheese, right? Like get protein in everything. Like protein doesn't need to be added to everything, but fiber is your key. You got to get 30 grams of fiber a day. Now I listed a bunch of reasons here, but there's a lot more than that. So let's go through a couple of these. Fiber can help eliminate and bind to toxins and excess estrogen through bowel movements, of course. It's going to feed beneficial gut bacteria. It's going to stabilize your blood sugars and prevent insulin spikes. It's going to reduce inflammation that disrupt hormones. And it's going to help control your cravings as well, which is important, especially during those changes, right? So fiber is key. 30 grams or more. Ideally, you're shooting for 50 would be really kind of the ideal. Now, number 2 is the protein. You do need to get the protein. I don't think it needs to be in everything and you just pound your face full of protein. If you're eating all this protein without the fiber, you're going to cause yourself some problems. So make sure that the fiber is balancing out the protein. Okay. And we'll talk about some other things you got to have with all this protein. Now, you do need protein though, because you're going to decline that muscle mass, right? Up to 1 to 2% a year and up to 10% at the onset of menopause. And muscle loss is going to equal more insulin resistance. You got to have that. So protein helps maintain the muscle mass, right? You got to have some protein to help build that muscle. It also helps stabilize your blood sugars and hormones, and it preserves metabolism during the perimenopause transition. So protein's going to help that. Now, your timing matters though with your protein. You want to include it at every meal to keep that energy steady. I don't think you need to eat 5 meals a day, but you definitely need it. But you also need to be eating protein before your workouts. This is something that needs to happen after the age of 25. So Make sure you're doing that. Also consider, a little bit more during luteal phases after ovulation, and then focus on high quality. Quality matters more than quantity now. Now you do need to be getting enough protein, but quality matters. Organic, pasture raised, wild caught, all that terminology really matters after 35. Eggs, fish, beef, poultry, quinoa, hemp seeds, all that kind of stuff. Now, how much? The goal is 0.6 times your ideal body weight. That's your minimum. You got to be hitting that every day. If you're 150 pounds, if that's your ideal weight, or 130 pounds, whatever, take that times 0.6. And that is the grams of of protein you need to eat every single day. Okay. Now remember, don't just pound protein. You got to get the fiber in there too. Otherwise you're going to have other issues. Okay. So make sure you're doing both. Now, as far as sugar goes, you don't need to eliminate it completely. Just shoot under 25 grams of added sugar. Not natural sugars in fruit or whatever else, but added sugar. Why? Because remember, you got less muscle mass now and more insulin resistance. That's a huge problem when you're eating a lot of sugar. It's going to disrupt your sleep and your stress hormones. It's going to worsen your blood sugar. Also, added sugars can trigger inflammation, which is going to circulate and, of course, interfere with your hormone production and your metabolism, but it's going to get stored as fat. Okay, and added sugar signals to the liver to store fat in any amount. And the more you eat and the faster you eat it, the more it's going to store it. No, that's the same for alcohol as well. Okay, and alcohol is going to convert to sugar, right? Which I talked about down here. But so again, 25 grams of added sugar less a day. So where are those sugars coming from? I mean, of course, processed food in general, but your coffee shop drinks and smoothies, the healthy granola bars and protein bars and yogurts, your salad dressing and marinades. These are all sneaky hidden sources of sugar that, you're not reading packages. You're just like, oh, this is a salad dressing. Well, there's probably some sugar in there unless you know what you're looking at and making it yourself or something, right? And then the wine and cocktails convert to sugar. So just be aware. I'm not going to tell you that you have to completely stop it, though that's not a bad idea for a while at least, but you're going to want to minimize it. Otherwise, it's going to wreck the system pretty easily. Okay, so sugar doesn't need to be completely avoided, just minimized under 25 grams. All right, strength training's number 4. This one is key. Your muscle is going to be key to offset the hormone changes and the slowed metabolism because of that. And you need the protein and the strength training to do that, right? It's a non-negotiable now, right? Muscle loss accelerates, which takes your metabolism with it. So strength training is going to combat that. It's that, and there's a few things that can help combat it, but protein and strength training are the two things. Strength training directly reduces visceral fat independent of weight loss. It helps build bone density, improves insulin sensitivity better than cardio, and it boosts confidence, of course, which is great. So you've got to be strength training. All this protein that everyone's telling you to eat doesn't do you anything if you're not actually strength training. Okay. And getting the fiber in. So you got to be getting all these things together. Now, you might be reading this going, well, Jared, I've done all those things. I'm getting my protein and I eat like raspberries like it's nobody's business. They're going out of style, right? And you're limiting that sugar. You might even cut it out and alcohol altogether. And you're like, I hit the gym 3, 4, 5 days a week and I get my steps in. Why can't I lose the weight? Well, that's where number 5 comes into play. Now, if you haven't gotten these things into play, you still might need to look at number 5. I still think you probably do, but these are the starting point, right? These are the foundation. And then we get to start number 5. Okay, so you've got to address the root imbalances that have happened over years of stress. Okay, so most women over 35 are dealing with these hidden saboteurs that keep them stuck. The chronic inflammation from stress and poor sleep, the elevated cortisol from juggling a career and family demands, the insulin resistance that makes it almost impossible, and the imbalanced stress system that regulates the whole thing that's happened because of a high stress career, family, and life demands. Okay, this creates imbalance in your body. Now, a lot of you have done the supplements, you've got the labs done, even the functional labs, but you still haven't addressed it. It's because you got to look at the entire stress system as a whole. And the key things, a lot of times they're missing the whole big picture. They're just hitting cortisol and adrenals, or they're doing this or that, and they're not putting it all together with the entire stress system. Okay, and if for those who've never really done root cause addressing approach, that approach for root cause, you've got to do that. It's going to be key. Yes, calories can play a part, but if you've had years of stress pile up, it's going to signal to store fat, and it's going to keep you stuck even when you're in a caloric deficit. And cutting the calories in the more intense workouts actually can signal more stress, leading to more weight gain. So it actually can backfire. And they're not character flaws. Like, these imbalances aren't because you're not disciplined enough. They're biological reasons to years of stress and current life changes. And the perimenopause and menopause just makes the imbalances worse. And again, the good news is, though, that once you address these imbalances, your body can actually finally respond and release that stubborn fat. And you got to think of it like fixing that foundation before renovating the house. I don't care how beautiful your home is. If your foundation is crumbling, it's a matter of time, right? And so that's got to be key. Now, here's just a few examples I'll share with you. When you address root imbalances, what happens? So I've worked with 2,000 women. Our average is 20 to 30 pounds in 6 weeks, right? During our process. So Ashley, who's a business owner, she had literally tried everything. You go listen to her. I did an interview with her and she was like, I tried it all, Jared. I was so stuck. 28 pounds in 6 weeks with us, right? Life-changing. Christy, same thing. Has like young kids, business owner, going through tons of stress, lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks. Right. Danny, same thing. Got young kids, worked out hard, owns a business, is busy, 27 pounds in 6 weeks, when before it was like nothing. Courtney lost 45 pounds in 5 months. Perimenopause took a toll on Courtney. She was very health-minded, busy, had a career, all these things, kids, and couldn't lose the weight. And in 5 months, had dropped 45 pounds. Carrie, insulin resistant now, in her 50s, tried literally every program, all the programs, you name it, all of them. Her doctor was worried about all her blood labs now. They'd finally started showing up as like imbalance, and in 5 months lost 50 pounds. Denise was probably one of the most high performing people I've ever met. Corporate HR director, big company, traveled all over the world. And even during the 5 months we worked together, when she lost 67 pounds, she traveled like twice a month for like a week each time, and still lost 67 pounds in 5 months. Donna, a mom of 2 little toddlers, didn't have energy before, tried a million things, lost 52 pounds in 5 months. Amber lost 130 pounds in 8 months, during the 8 months, she got divorced, changed jobs, has multiple kids, moved, like all these things, right? And she didn't have multiple kids, but she already has multiple kids. She still lost 130 pounds in 8 months. And then Casey, who is also super high performing, owns a business, very busy. She's a makeup artist in Boston, and she lost 104 pounds in 9 months while traveling pretty much twice a week during that entire time. Okay, so these are just some examples. I mean, we have hundreds, thousands of these testimonials, all the kinds of things you can check out. But these are the results that can happen for people who feel like they've struggled with everything, never been able to get the results, by getting things in place. One, addressing the imbalances, and then learning how to maintain the balance there, right? So the imbalances don't come back. This is key. All of these women are continuing to keep their weight off, right? This is the most important thing. So for us, so if you want to learn how to address those imbalances further, and you're like, some of this stuff that I've tried, Jared, isn't working, then there should be a link below this video, or you can reach out directly to me and we can schedule a metabolism assessment. That way we can figure out what's actually holding you back, what needs to be addressed, and figure out a plan to actually address it. So hopefully this has been helpful to help you address the visceral fat. Let me know if you have any specific questions below. There should be a link in the comments somewhere, or to reach out to me directly and go schedule your metabolism assessment.